So overall, what's sort of the Washington Policy Center take on the revenue package and budget that the legislature decided to go with?
Well, our take basically is that the session as a whole was a missed opportunity to really deal with the state's long-term structural financial problems. Given the present economic climate, the fact that people are out of work, the economy is struggling, for the state government to then increase the financial burden that it places on the economy and on citizens, we just think that's the wrong decision right now.
Overall, when you consider the biennium as a whole, the cuts outweighed the new revenue by quite a bit.
Exactly, and that's because the word cuts is a relative term. Actually, total state spending for all accounts is increasing by about $1 billion through this budget cycle. That's something that most people don't know. The general fund and near general fund accounts are reducing in total spending by a slight amount, about $500 million. However, the magnitude of the cuts, as they're defined in government, are much greater than that, and that's because they have automatic increases built in based on the expansion of programs, increasing caseloads, or other needs within the government. So when you hear the term cuts, it's in relation to the way that they expected the budget to grow, projected into the future, and because of the bad economy, that didn't happen.
You would have favored, I guess then your definition of cuts, and what is that?
Well, so what you're asking is, what should they do instead? We would recommend that their first order of business would be to look at this structural deficit, look at how automatic increases are built into the budget going forward, look at the monopolies and obligations that the state has taken on, almost as a business model, without actually focusing on core public services, and that go through that kind of review and look at areas of the budget that don't need to absorb so much of the tax revenue. And things that they didn't do that would get costs under control is they didn't address personnel costs at all. They have a collective bargaining agreement in place. The governor said she was not going to open that up for negotiation. The state's very generous health care matching. She said they weren't going to talk about that. State workers only pay 12% towards their health care. In the private sector, it's more like 24%. That's just one example. They haven't asked Indian tribes to make contributions from casino profits. Other states have negotiated compacts where Indian tribes who run very profitable resorts and casinos contribute to state coffers. In Washington state, that's largely not the case. They also didn't use the legislature's contracting out authority, price competition, other mechanisms and efficiencies that private sector businesses are using all the time, especially in a really tough economy. The legislature didn't do any of that.
I mean, do things need to change in the way that the state works with unions?
The unions definitely have an inside track with state government. There's a separate, again, behind-the-scenes negotiation in which only the unions, as an interest within state government, and the chief executive of the state are working out their pay and compensation package. Then that entire package goes to the state legislature for only an up or down vote. It cannot be amended or changed. So what we would argue for is a more open process, a process that's more transparent, that involves public input, and also it involves the people's elected representatives. So the legislature has been completely dealt out. It's what we consider to be a Band-Aid budget. They raise taxes just to get them through the next calendar year, and then they'll face similar problems going into the future.